Yeah. Type 3. Yo. Started at the foam as a quantum burst. On the journey from the plane through the Omniverse. The shortest distance you can travel at the speed of light. Watch me take the same path as the neutrinos flight. Shot forward, zooming past the top core, where the space-time and energy roads do not fork. I've been slept on since the electron, Westbourne, home of the place to leave your chest warm. Photonic crystals are my playthings, rap at this scale, spoken in gamma ray wavelengths. Blaze beats, on my way to H3, unstable combustible isotopes at great heat. Fluid like a Mickey Mouse molecule, breaking down all atomic rules on the follow-through. I traverse the alpha helix, on the way to complex chemistry, you're bound to see it. Deoxyribonucleic secrets in the deep end, as I keep the beat and sow the seeds of reason. The only heathen that can bring you cell replication. Shoot questions stared through the barrel of investigation. Separation, 2 strands, introduce RNA into the sequence, then you'll get a new hand. Puffin' Chiba with amoeba, debating which came first, consciousness or the creature, with tapeworms. Cannabis tea poured from Russell's teapot to toast to every person to ever win an EGOT. Pack the stadium the size of a coliseum. Skyscrapers, high-risers, tetrahedrons.
I haven't like got ready, like by getting ready, did a full face of makeup and like did my hair in so long that I forgot how to look like a normie. I was like sitting there and like, how do I do my makeup again? And I'm just like, I freaking like forgot how to get ready, but this is what I'm presenting as today. Fully in the flesh.
It is nice to be here. I like the coffee cup. It's very nice coffee cup.
Thank you. It's probably mirrored for you. It's backwards, eh? It says Black Rifle.
No, it actually was mirrored. And read it.
Oh, cool. Cool.
I'm here in America. The whole Constitution thing that they're quickly getting rid of, but
yeah.
You got the First Amendment, which is free speech, and then you have the Second Amendment to protect that.
No, I follow the news in the States quite closely because I'm here in Canada. We're in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada here. Where are you about again?
I'm in basically Augusta, Georgia.
Oh, cool.
So I know you've heard of Atlanta, Georgia. Augusta, Georgia is about 3 hours away from it, kind of right on the South Carolina line. And that's also the home of the Masters golf tournament, which is the main thing in golf. That's pretty much all it's known for. We're also known for the Fort Gordon, the Army base for the United States, which is basically functions as the communications hub for like the whole of the Army. So my father worked there when I was growing up and researching all of these topics and this and that, the secret space programs and this and that. I'm like, but my dad worked at communications equipment on this base here. So my father passed away
I'm sorry.
In February of 2018. But that was a major transitional period for me, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like the time where I started like growing up, really going from boyhood into manhood, because it's just on my own. And
yeah.
So yeah, that's where I'm at. Augusta, Georgia, from the East Coast.
Is that like I know in the States it's very like liberal and Republican or Democrat, but Republican. Is that more of like a Republican area or a Democrat area?
I'm going to say more Republican than anything, as far as like just being here in Georgia, the state as a whole. But over the past however many years they've been, as far as like the mentality of the people would be more Republican, but like they're slowly but surely voting in more Democratic, this and that. No.
Voting.
Yeah, exactly. That's why that was a weird question. That was a weird question for me, because I'm like, I don't know, because I don't really pay attention to it, because it's all set up and rigged, and people really
it's a bunch of coding, really.
People really don't understand that. They talk about voting and this and that, and I'm just like, what?
I know, like it has some impact, I'm sure, but they just adjust. They make adjustments as needed. Like if the results in real votes are not going to be what they wanted it to be, then they just
exactly. They stick to their script regardless of what they present.
Do you think Trump was like part of the actual like script, or do you think he was like a legit like surprise for like the scene or whatever you want to.
I think he was definitely a part of the script, and I think that the part of the script that he was to be the entertainment factor just before they brought in the whole COVID narrative and just where we're headed now with all of this and it's worldwide. And every time I talk to somebody about this recently, I say, why all of this craziness? Why are they locking down Australia over here and all this stuff's going on in Canada and all of this is coming from the White House here and it's just worldwide with this vaccine. They're pushing it so much. Why all of this? And they say, because the virus. I say, no, but do you remember what was happening right before all of this happened? They're like, what? And I was like, Epstein didn't kill himself. Remember? And then the boy fucking went crazy. I always try to tie it back to that because I think the Epstein story kind of going viral across the internet with everybody talking about it, I think that was a non-scripted thing that they couldn't suppress any other kind of way. And then it is 2021 and they've had an agenda for a while. And I think we're in the midst of it. And
very much like I
really think that Trump kind of was like a break from all of the normal scripting, if you will. Yeah. And that kind of gave people's consciousness or their minds space to expand maybe a little bit. But I definitely think it was just like an entertainment factor, distraction, before they pushed him out, had all this drama to keep you ensnared. And they brought in a real company man. The president of the president of the
thing,
Biden, Obama 2.0, to really come in and say, we're gonna beat Joe Biden, says Joe Biden. I don't know if you've seen that video. It's really funny.
I haven't, but does he actually say, my butt's been wiped? Or is that an edited shot? Have you seen that?
I don't know. I really don't know anymore. At this point, I don't know. I don't know what's real and what's not. Like, did they just deep fake everything? Is it all just... At this point, does Trump even exist? Was it all just Hollywood?
I don't know. And like, that's
I try not to let myself go into those spaces like in my mind, because then I'll start taking myself serious, and then that's a problem because I'm like, whoa, I got to deal with reality here. But gotta ask. I mean, everything that controls our lives, I really don't think that people understand just how much these computer screens control so much of our lives, like on a subconscious level, to where we know.
I was researching the other day actually about, and I know you probably already know a lot about this, so, like, you obviously hear a lot about like the surveillance state, the security state, AI, Big Brother, whatever you want to call it. I don't know, it's a million words. And this, I think we're going to dive into one, I'm just going right now, deeper topic about kind of the breaking of worlds or dimensions or whatever timelines maybe into that like AI version of evolution versus like the spiritual version. Like I kind of use the analogy of like, do we go to the Akashic Records for answers or Google, or like, do we use like a metallic UFO to travel space, or do we Merkaba like consciousness body? Like there's like going to be this divide of technology, spiritual technology, stupid fake metal technology. And and anyway, so I was researching all this stuff about the tests and stuff like the Pentagon and whatever else intelligence agencies are doing right now, where they've collected and they've formulated portfolios that we already kind of know of. Like if they wanted to look up the file on you, for example, they could easily populate every single digital footprint you've ever had, from email to text message to every phone call you've ever done, to all of your bank statements, every purchase, every location you've ever been to, because your cell phone's a GPS tracking device, whatever. And it puts together this nice little summary of Ethan, who you are, your past behaviors, best predictive behaviors. And they've taken all this information and they've made an artificial Earth, a simulation Earth to test different propaganda theories. So they've plugged in every single human being on this planet right now. They've plugged in our portfolios essentially into this database that's now populated this imitation fake AI Earth version. And then they run through all their programs of different, propaganda, psyops, flow spikes, whatever they want to do. And then they see how we would react based on all of our past behavior. Like obviously nothing's going to be exact, but I've always kind of known this, like subconsciously, that everything I've been doing digitally was somehow just going to be, it's out there and tabulated. And with that knowledge, I've tried as best as I can to make sure that I'm in control of that portfolio. So like if I'm putting information out there publicly, yes, it's the truth. Like I never lie. Like if I write something on Facebook or even on here, like I'm always going to tell the truth, but it's going to be in a way that I have control about what that little book that they have about me and what they think that I think or think that I know. Like, I'm not going to give them my soul like on a piece of paper.
Yep.
But it's scary where it's going. And then I don't know if you saw like some of the speech. Sorry, I don't know if you saw some of the speech today at the 9/11 memorial. The audacity. Freaking they had like Biden. Bush was giving the speech. The man behind. Yeah, the irony. Bush was giving the speech. And guess what he says? He's like, oh, my. What is a stupid like retard voice because he's handicapped in the head. He's like, my Americans, la 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 la. And then he's like, you know what, we got to worry about the terrorists, but even more of a threat these days. I can't see what it said. What does it say?
It says, nice to meet you, 9/11. Bush says, it's George. He says, okay, inside job, whatever you say.
Yeah. And then so George Bush says to the whole crowd or whatever, and he's like, yeah,
Bush speaking.
It's like 9/11's a hard time or whatever he says. And then he goes, but, you know, we can't really worry now about the terrorists or like foreign threats. He's like, the biggest threat of all right now is the domestic extremists. So actually, so critical thinkers, conspiracy theorists, patriots, we're a bigger threat than people chopping off heads and lighting bodies on fire in the middle of the street. Like, I couldn't believe the nerve of this piece of shit.
It's more dangerous to be anti-narrative than it is to be like actually violent. Or blowing up buildings, this and that, or running around carrying on Epstein's great work. That's not even on the radar. In fact, that's anti-narrative, and you should not speak of it.
They're conspiracy theorists.
It's dangerous. Yeah.
Very dangerous.
So on that subject, with what you just said, that's a great point in the conversation, I guess, to point out what I'm trying to do here with the idea of Omniversal media, via the podcast and this and that, in conjunction with the Omniversal News Network, would be to kind of come in and say, all right, we have to override this overlay that y'all have come up with, controlling the narrative. You don't get to control the narrative because we're not going to let you. The only way that you would be able to is if you could silence us, but you can't because you'll have to kill us first. And I don't necessarily want to be killed or martyred, this and that. Yeah. But at the same time, I can't sit back and be silent. I know that I feel like I have the title of this episode is going to be Sacred Duty. I have a sacred duty to come in and say, to come down from a higher level and say, no, you don't get to do that. You've gone too far. Your media conglomerate or whatever is going to be rendered obsolete because I'm just going to put out the stuff that's relevant to the people on a deeply synchronistic soul-based level that they're going to be drawn to it. They're going to get from the conversations and from just whatever else we pull under our wings. They're going to get exactly what they need in this time of need. And it's going to shift the thought sphere of humanity back to that organic ascension timeline that you were mentioning before. Just to say, you did good in this game that y'all were playing, but you lost because we were never going to let you win. Who's we? Yeah. People like us.
Yeah, us nobodies.
Us nobodies. Yeah. So since we're nobodies, let's talk about names here. Now, before you joined the meeting and I said I was rambling, I was talking about myself and bringing you in, and I didn't know if you wanted to share your last name here or not, but I've got it written down as Sacred Duty with Ashley Laurel. And because of just those two names, I want to share that my last name is Womack. Of course, I prefer to go by the title of Hawkeye because that's the name that came from within to me to kind of restructure my mind around the name, the concept of your egoic self and your higher self or your soul being the actual you. Like we often say in our language, like our language is so distorted that we have to say it this way to be grammatically correct. We have to say my soul, but really all there is the soul, and then you have a body and you have a name and this and that. So anyways, I'm going off on a tangent here, but Ethan Womack, Ethan being ancient, enduring, or steadfast, and Womack meaning literally translating to he who dwells within the oak. So oak tree. And so I have written here, I sent you those notes, ash, oak, and laurel trees. Someone else that I intend to have on the show here is Laura Eisenhower.
Very nice.
And so there's the laurel tree again. But the ash tree and the lore behind that, we can get into the oak later, but I remember this post. I actually saved this post that you made. Put it here so I can kind of still look at the camera.
Oh, I don't even remember it.
It's one that you started out. They said, okay, so you know how a couple of weeks ago I was mentioning the synchronicities in my life have been so much more blatant or in my face and frequent, and I officially freaked myself out to the max. I just caught my last insane synchronicity, and I swear to Mother Goddess that the most rational explanation at this point is that a time traveler is pranking me. LOL. And then you go, so one topic among many that I've never looked into before is the meaning of my name, Ashley Laurel. And I'll leave it up to you to divulge your last name here.
Dickout. My last name's Dickout. My legal name was on paper. It's Dickout, just the way it sounds, like whip your dick out kind of thing.
All right, I hope you're just going to whip it out like
But
that.
don't. For the purpose of this family program, please keep it in your pants.
You're just going to whip it out like that. We'll just go on with it. So it's that point where you were talking about your name and you were looking deeply into the symbology of this and that. Here's some excerpts from your research. You say the most famous ash tree was the Norse world tree, and I don't know how to pronounce the...
Oh God, neither do I. Yggdrasil?
Yeah, something like that. On which Odin hung to receive the wisdom of the runes. Thus, ash possesses indescribable knowledge, things we cannot really know in our heads and can only reach through our expansion of consciousness. So I'm going to pause right there and say that I wrote a book in 2009, I think it was. I just got inspired to just sit down and write this book. But my main character's name was Ashton. And he's a male.
Shut up.
He's a male character, but this name just came to me and it was deeply spiritual when I was writing it. I didn't know why I was writing it. I just knew I need to write it, this and that. And so I looked into the name, like why this name? And so I had discovered all this back in 2009 about the ash tree and that and all of that. So things we cannot really know in our heads and can only reach through the expansion of consciousness. So fast forward from then until now, and here I am talking to you. And not only that, but then we go from that ash tree over to the laurel tree, and the laurel tree is even more interesting because this is the battle of a war, a battle against those who are warring on our consciousness. The laurel tree, back in the elden days, they would use the leaves from that tree and they would weave them into crowns to place upon the head of the victors in this or that battle. So to me, it translates straight into victory. Like, who's going to win here? The trees are going to win, basically.
Right?
Nature's going to win. That
100%.
That organic ascension timeline. That's why all of these machines and stuff, I think, is very important. What you said, we have to be in control of that file that they're trying to use to control us through the automated algorithmic programming. This is something I was actually having a deep conversation with a tree. It's an oak tree.
Cool.
And basically, I got freaked out by just the intrusion of stuff through the internet and all of these devices. And I was just seeing how we're surrounded by it. I'm trapped. I can't get out. And the tree was like, calm down. I was planted here way long before you were born, and here I am because I wanted to talk to you today, and this and that. The level of intelligence that you're dealing with nature is far beyond your little toys there. So
yeah,
just don't trip about it. It's cool. And then I realized with all of my posts and stuff that I needed to become conscious and aware and begin purposely reprogramming their algorithm, which is programming itself through what it learns from our output. You can program that to respond and act how you intend for it to do. So you take your power back from it because it never had any power, it only had control. There's a big difference between power and control. Two different things. And I think you do that, just to kind of stay on topic here, you do that through controlling the media aspect of it and also the news or the information part of it, the philosophical and the informational outputs there. And right now it's all on the grand scale of things. These two entities have merged into one, and you got this news channel saying about this news channel, they're fake news, this is fake news. And you try to find the truth and you find it on the internet and try to share it on Facebook. And they say, sorry, that's anti-narrative, that's dangerous content. You're an extremist and we put you on a list.
A domestic terrorist.
Or also you're banned from here. Have you noticed how strange it is that every time you post anything regarding COVID-19, they give you a little warning before you post it?
can I tell you about COVID really quickly? Just going on a bit of a tiny tangent. So we all got COVID in our house. Like, I think it was 2 weeks ago now. So I'm going to share like a little bit of information. So my husband's in the military, and unfortunately they mandated vaccines. I can't say like forced them to take it, but they essentially either had to take it or resign. Anyways. And we didn't like, he couldn't find another job fast enough, and we have bills, and anyways, it's just really a tough position. And my husband is a very devout Christian, so we have obviously very different belief systems, but to him this was very like, the vaccine was very like mark of the beast representative. Like, he was very scared of it from that angle, because he has a very Revelations like background, so that's where he thought of it. And he like prayed to God for forgiveness after he got it. He was so like upset and felt like he had like sold his soul and all this stuff. And we were both crying. Like, it was really hard and emotional, because we didn't really know what it meant or what was going to happen, but I knew it wasn't good. And then right after he got it, because you've seen that magnet challenge where people, like thousands of people were putting magnets on their injection site. We did it. And those magnets are working or whatever. Everyone's like, it's a hoax. All the experts on TV are like, that's just one big hoax from a conspiracy theorist. So I thought, at least now the positive, I can try this myself. And I had already tried it on several people who got the shot, but it didn't stick, right? So I thought, maybe it is a hoax or whatever. But all those people had their injection at least like a month or more prior. So the magnetism only seems to work for a certain amount of time, I'm assuming, until the nanotech buries itself a little deeper. But anyways, so Matthew gets the injection, and then probably 4 hours later, we go grab a magnet, and it like, and I have a video of this. He's not like comfortable sharing right now, but I have it like just in case. The magnet like pulls, like it sticks hard, and like a really strong magnetic effect. And I was honestly so shocked. I started crying, because I'm like, I did not want this to be true. Like, what does that mean? And we tried multiple magnets. They all like did the same thing, just stuck really hard. And then I still didn't know like what was causing the magnetism. Like, people could say like microchips and whatever, but like, what exactly does that mean? And then I finally saw some research come out about graphene oxide, the ingredient that's that nanotech ingredient, essentially, that's supposedly a really high conductor of electricity, connects well to 5G, the internet, and God knows what, like what the intention is. I don't know what their long-term plan is, but I definitely, at minimum, it's going to be a tracking thing where they can like GPS track us at all times. Not that they so much need it because we have our phones, but like, I mean, for when you're actually trying to hide and get away, it's like, sorry, we know you're in the freaking mountains in the forest at this location, like whatever. So I think that's the minimum. Sorry?
Nothing, go ahead. I was just saying, we have your latitude and longitude.
Yeah, exactly, right? I think that's like the bare minimum of why they did it. And then so then about a month after he gets his injection, keep in mind now, everyone at his job has been fully vaccinated for at least almost a couple months. Yeah. And there's a freaking breakout at the military. So Matthew ends up catching it from someone else at work after he's fully vaccinated. Comes home, immediately infects myself and my two daughters, and we were all tested positive or whatever. So then we all obviously like isolated and stayed home. I especially have to with my daughter. It's very corporate. I have to like fill out a questionnaire every day that I have no symptoms. And anyways, we have a COVID response team. Like, it's a very corporate job. So we both stayed home and did our full quarantine. But get this. So for symptoms, I was only symptomatic and sick for like, I don't know, 3-4 days. And my symptoms were just very much like any cold I've ever had. So like mild cough, loss of taste and smell, like you do with every single cold, and then like runny stuffed nose kind of thing. And then my daughters were barely symptomatic, just a bit of a runny nose and a little bit of coughing. Matthew got very sick. He was sick for almost 2 weeks. So like usually even people who get it aren't sick past the 10 days. He was sick for almost 2 weeks. He had every symptom you can think of, from vomiting, high fever, just like all of the symptoms, like everything. It just like went through like different stages. It was like a different cold every day kind of thing. And he took a really long time to recover, where the rest of us like bounced back really fast. And he's the only one out of us that's fully vaccinated. And then there's like this breakout happening at the military. So regardless of what the news and the narrative is telling us, like we know for a fact now that the vaccinated are the super spreaders. I'm assuming it's because the ingredients that they have in the vaccine caused, I don't know, like some kind of reaction where like maybe that body is now emitting like those viruses much more strongly, or like or a stronger version of a variant. Like I don't know, but all I know is they're the ones spreading it around like in that really bad. But we all end up like getting over it. It's still really scary here though, because they're considering mandating it. And my job, unfortunately, is I work for a company that's Canada-wide. and they've been mandating the vaccine by province right now. So Alberta, I live in like the Texas of Canada, just by the grace of God, like that who knew things were going to happen. So I used to hate Alberta. Like I was wanted to live in BC on the West Coast because it's so beautiful there, and I still love it there, but they've gone completely, like, the government's nuts there right now. And same thing with Ontario, another really beautiful province, but they're also like, they've already mandated the vaccine. And my job, like as much as I love it, if they've already mandated the vaccine in my job, but not here in Alberta. But like the moment that we make that shift, I don't know what that means for us, but like Matt and I have talked about it, like when we're going to go off grid, like when do we draw the line where we're like, we're getting out of Dodge? Like, is it when they start microchipping? Like, when do we do it? And for us, it's like the mandating of the vaccine. Like if it's like where me and the girls can't do anything or go anywhere, or if they're starting to collect people who haven't been vaccinated and put them in detention centers, which they're already doing in Australia. I mean, you've been watching the stuff in Australia, how like fucked up it is right now, like, and how they've been saying the words New World Order just like outwardly. They're like, so we're gonna look at that tomorrow at the New World Order, as for the New World Order or whatever. Just like, sometimes it's a slip of the mouth, and they're like, no, but they're like actually just saying it like confidently now, arrogantly. Go ahead, I'm done with my COVID.
I want you to continue. I just wanted to say it's gone from new normal to New World Order, just like that. Just
overnight.
Because Epstein didn't kill himself. But anyways.
Do you mind, Ethan, at some point if I do like a quick little visualization for us to just like telepathically connect our energies?
Yes, I was actually going to mention that earlier, which sent in the message with the setting the intention and this and that. Yeah. On that note, I'm scrolling through these notes here from your posts, talking about the names, and it says at one point, ash is the key to healing the loneliness of the human spirit, forming a link between the gods, humans, and the dead in the spirit world. Ash holds the key to universal truth and cosmic wisdom, and it takes on the important role as a tree of initiation.
I didn't remember writing this. I wrote that?
I think that this was you relaying your research on
I'm like, okay.
The lore of the ash tree. And so, interestingly enough, I was telling a friend, I'm going to be doing our first call for the podcast, this and that. And I had something set up for last weekend, and it didn't work out because, ironically, me and the person that we're going to have the meeting here, we both did not feel good on that day, and we just decided to reschedule. And so my very first recording here is with you, with the Omniversal News Network, and just the correlation of that and just the way it all worked out. It's just interesting. And then I had somebody message me on the website. I have a thing where they can message me through Facebook Messenger. Just if they're on the website and want more information, it goes straight to my phone. I got a message like 5 minutes before I started the meeting. They were like, I'm on your website. I'm excited to see what you put out. Oh my God. And I was just like, oh, that's interesting. So,
it's like, it's a lot of pressure. It's scary. Like there's a reason, like, I don't know. I haven't really put myself out there either, to be honest. Like, this is my first video that I've done in any capacity in almost 5 years. And I don't know why I went dark. It's like a million different reasons. It just didn't feel like it was the time to, I don't know. I could feel the censorship around me and this like crackdown, and how everyone who was kind of going down this path was getting like deleted from the internet. And there was this huge, and it is going to get like worse to a certain degree with certain things, but it just didn't feel like the right time. I don't know. And I don't know. I fell out of it's good. It's good to get back into this again. I'm really happy that we're doing this.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that, but then you just went ahead and kind of explained it before I did. So I kind of view it as like a period of gathering your strength. To say you're seeing this person and that person left or right getting taken down in their platforms, being deplatformed, if you will. And so you're like, well, what I have to bring to the table is too important for me to just let it get wiped out right now. So I'll just wait in the background until it's time. And then I contacted you about this and that. And you're very difficult to get in direct contact with, but it's fine. I mean, private life is private life. But
no, but I am. I don't do this.
I'm glad that it worked out, because it seems to me as if this whole idea with doing the call with me was something that kind of spoke to a deeper part of you that made you say, okay, we'll do the video, this and that. It's time to get back into it. And the stuff that you really slowed down a lot, even with your posts, like this post that I keep referencing, but the posts that I've seen you put out of this nature, they're of such a high caliber in comparison with just everything else that I see in my feed from anybody. And I resonate with it on such a deep level that it kind of escapes words. And it really just lets me know that I'm not the only one down here that, I don't know, it's just escaping words.
You're not alone like that.
Yeah.
There's more than one of us.
Yeah.
God.
And so I think putting out stuff like this, I think it's
Stay artful as I chop countries to state parcels. Leave the planet completely, become a space marshal. On the red plains, exploring the Mars dunes. Scrutinize asteroid debris and small moons. Who you talking to? I spit the cold fission. Visit every world near, then leave the solar system. Only one of many. All the space in between here and there is cold, and much of it is empty. Still come across a nebula or two, a couple of parsecs, and we've only gone a few. The void we launch into, from Orion's arm. Starships, galaxy class, we flying on. Galactic following, barely known in a local group. Training all alone, they're large voids of oaken truth. Take it in, let it sober you. As we go out to get a better seat of the overview. An ocean of space engulfing you. With the singular and multitude. Every single one from Leo to Pavo Indus. I've traveled it all from Columba to Ophiuchus. I break jaws with the great wall of galaxies and filaments that would face all. One existence of distances that you might fear. From end to end, that's over 1 billion light years. In a sea of universes, it's a bubble in. And this is from the humans perch at the Hubble.
Yeah.
God.
And so I think putting out stuff like this is, with everything going on in the world right now, I think it's a way for them to see it too, and for them to connect. Say, oh, it's time. The alarm bell's going off. It's time to gather the tribe again.
And being September 11th, like talk about just
Yeah, I know. The 20th anniversary. 20th anniversary.
Right? And I hope that this shifts the energy, like that as we may create ripples for this timeline, even right now, just having this conversation, that the fact that we're doing it on this date has held like an energetic, what's the word I'm looking for? Like feeling like attributed to this date. It's very negative and very like, oh, that was the day that the world changed, and it was in many ways. We can go back on that. I think there was some timeline manipulation, but that.
Oh yeah, they definitely opened a very dark portal in that day through the ritual sacrifice of it and all of that. And so that's been anchored into our collective, like worldwide, because in World Trade Center, that's when they laid all of the groundwork and the foundation for them to get away with what they're doing now. How did they do that? Coming off with the whole terrorist narrative and this and that. And now domestic terrorists are more dangerous than that and anything anti-narrative.
Get ready for screaming 1 second.
That's fine.
Hello, look, you want to say hi? You want to say hi to Ethan? Come here. What? Do you want to see the computer? I know you want to touch it because Mommy didn't like touch it earlier. I wanted to like introduce the girls because I've never introduced them publicly. Of course, today they're like very frank. Come here 1 second. Come here. Who's that? Who's that?
Hello?
This is my oldest. This is Aurora.
Ah, hello, Aurora.
This is Aurora. Is that Aurora and Mommy? Can you say hi?
She's like, let me touch it. Hello.
Hi.
Again, names, interesting.
Right?
On the website.
That's the reason I chose. I'll show you my other one. Aria Rose, come here. Aria. Oh, can I tell you? Both of their names came to me in dreams, and both the kids told me their names. I didn't know what it was. I was one of those women that was like, I'm going to name my kids this one day. I waited till I was pregnant, then I was like, what is your name, soul? And then with Aurora, I think I was about 4 months in, and immediately it just was like, I don't know. I just woke up one morning and I'm like, oh, nice to meet you, Aurora. Welcome to this domain. And then Aria Rose, it was an interesting. Okay, I'm going upstairs. So with honey, can you just grab Aurora, please? Let's see, Papa. With Aria Rose, I felt like resonated with the word rose. She was constantly telling me, like her soul was telling me, like my name is Rose, because I kept seeing the rose in my head, and like the Fibonacci sequence, and all this stuff. But then Matthew kept resonating with the name Aria. Like he kept feeling and hearing the name like Aria, and that was her name. And by the way, Aria, the symbolic and deep meaning of it is the lioness of God.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Oh. Okay.
Right? And then I saw that meaning. I'm like, I like that. Let's do Aria Rose. Let's just do the full thing. You were saying, sorry.
Just on the website, the Omniversal Media website, some of the terminology that I've used there. And I remember I remember when you were making posts about your firstborn, Aurora, and just this and that. And I had recently discovered the artist Aurora. And then there's this other friend that I have that's also going to be on the podcast here with me. She goes by the name Ashley Aurora. And so this Aurora thing was Aurora around me at this time period. And also this terminology that I've placed on the website and just all of what it implies, it just all syncs up. It says, we are implementing Aurora override re-encryption protocols. We seek to provide you with the tonally encrypted vocal codings that are necessary to reactivate your latent DNA patterning through the information sets contained within the podcast. It's time for our star tribe to awaken and to restore the balance by remembering what Wetiko has forced us to forget. It's time to heal the world back to life, and that can only be done through ancient wisdom. It's like that tree that said, I was planted here on purpose long ago, so that I'd be here to tell you just calm down. They don't have any power. That's the level of intelligence you're dealing with. And then I just see the connections with just the name codings spiraling around my psyche at the time of you saying, oh yeah, I have a daughter. And then she told me her name. And when you were telling that story about how they told me their names, they named themselves, or they told me, this is what my name is. I had a cat like that.
Really?
Yeah, I had a dream about this cat. And 2 weeks prior to running into this cat, I was telling my partner at the time, I think I need to get a cat, and looking at pictures of cats on the internet that just kept popping up. And then this cat just popped up and was just lost in the woods all alone, little kitten. And it's like, ah. And I brought it home and I was like, what am I going to name this cat? And it was something like, I was getting the name like a stray cat. And then I was like, Ashtray? No, I can't name the cat Ashtray. The name that once the translation came through was Astraea, which is not sure if you're familiar with the name and the Greek goddess and all of this and that. But anyway, I've also had the whole experience of this entity coming into my life and like saying, here's my name before you name me. So it's really interesting and really cool how everything works together.
It is. Ethan, let's do our intention because we could just
Let's do it.
Okay, so if you don't mind, can I guide us through just?
Yeah, please do. You're so excited. It's exciting. So
I was like, I'm going to be mellow today and just like very grounded, and I'm trying to be, but I'm just so excited that I might. But you know, I only get like this. I only get this like zzz, if I'm talking about stuff that lights my soul on fire. Like I'm not like this like all day every day. Like I'm just normally like pretty, hey, like what's up, like whatever. But you get me going about like spirituality, conspiracies, like just any of like that or deeper stuff, right? Anything soul related, then I'm just like, I can't talk fast enough. There's so much that wants to come out. And then I even had a pen and paper. I forgot it downstairs, but I usually end up writing so much while I'm talking because all this stuff is coming in of like just like information. And I haven't got downloads in so long, like a good one. It's probably been months, it feels like. And then the moment that I set my intention today, when I knew for sure that the interview was happening, like it wasn't like, because I didn't know, you just never know if like something's going to come up or whatever. But when I knew for sure that it was, what?
Like your camera might not work. It might not happen. I got you.
Yeah. Like you just, I don't know. But once I knew in my heart, like it was happening today and it was like done, immediately all this stuff just started coming in and hasn't stopped all day of like things to talk about and whatever. And there's like this higher thing, I don't know, the quantum field source, whatever you want to call it. But anytime I do a video, and you probably get like this too, but your higher self knows that the information is going to be reaching a vast amount of people. I get way more good stuff when I'm about to do that than I do just on my regular day at work. Like it's like Ashley's doing a video tomorrow. She's not going to sleep tonight because she's going to be downloading for the fucking whole entire night long. Like it's just, and I was like that all day today. I just like couldn't stop. Okay. Yeah. So intention.
Yes. Okay, and see, you the excitement that you're displaying and describing, that's also extremely inspiring and encouraging to me, as well as it excites that same part of me. Yeah, big same. I want to put one of those little GIF images up, but anyway.
You're talking GIFs like.
It's a special language. It's omniversal in nature. But anyways, go ahead.
Okay, so let's just quickly close our eyes. And if anyone who's watching this would like to join, that would be lovely. We're just going to do a quick visualization. I'm going to sync up telepathically with Ethan. Ethan, if you just want to right now visualize your third eye chakra, So just bring awareness to that area in your forehead. Imagine that area being an electric violet in color, just kind of filling up your whole mind, your pineal gland, that electric violet energy. Now I want you to imagine an electric violet cord or thread of energy leaving your third eye chakra and then connecting to my third eye chakra. So imagine that syncing up, like plugging into my third eye from your eye. So 2 cords, electric violet. And then we're going to bring our awareness to our heart. So bring your awareness to your heart chakra, a bright green emerald in color. And as you think about the center, just focus on the word love and unconditional love and what that feels like to be in your most blissful, loving state. Thinking about a happy memory or a happy time when we were at our happiest. When we get to that vibration, I just want you to, again, imagine a thread or a cord leaving your heart chakra and just connecting with my heart chakra. And then we're going to connect our crowns lastly. So we're just going to bring awareness to the top of our heads. About 1 inch above our head, there's like a spinning chakra. Imagine it rotating clockwise, spinning really fast, like a lotus opening, however you want to visualize that. And again, we're going to imagine an electric violet cord or thread of energy, but this time it's going to connect our crowns like an archway. So like shoot that out of your crown, that thread of energy, like an arch, and plug it into my crown chakra. And then let's even connect our throats as well, because this is our place of speaking our truth. So I think that would be important. So just bring our awareness to our throat chakra in the center of your neck. Bright blue in color, about the color of the sky. And again, swirling around in a clockwise motion. And just think and set the intention that every word that we speak today comes from our higher self, with the intention of not harming and doing what's right and speaking our truth at all times. And then just imagining an electric violet cord from your throat connecting into my throat. And then this is also how you would communicate or attempt to communicate telepathically with just basically any being in the universe. And then I just want to set our intention for today and also just for the whole site and I hate the word like business, but like the mission, the purpose of Omniversal Media, Omniversal News Network, all this stuff or what we're trying to achieve. I just want to set the intention today that everything that we talk about today and every dollar that Omniversal Media receives from this goes towards a cause or is spent in a way that is for the highest good and it best serves humanity's spiritual evolution or best facilitates humanity's spiritual evolution and it is spent in a way that helps raise the vibration of the planet. So that this whole thing is everything that we do and say today is for the best for humanity. And then we'll just hold that attention and we can open our eyes. That was amazing. I feel good now. I mean, I felt good before, but now we're just like really connected.
Yeah, I think that was definitely what was needed to just go ahead and vocalize that and bring it into full manifestation. We kind of visualized on that omniversal level, that very high up level of our higher selves, like stepping it all the way down into the 3D manifestation through that right there. I pulled out my Hawkeye stone here. A dear friend of mine gifted this to me. It shipped from Nepal. And
wow.
I had it in my pocket and I pulled it out at the start of that. And it's really, this whole thing, the idea, it came from elsewhere down through me, and then you over there, and you read the thing where I described the difference between the news and the media and the bringing it together. It's just, I didn't come.
You can explain it if you want to expand on that, just for the viewers, maybe.
Yeah, on our website, the About Us page, it says Omniversal Media is a hub connecting certain souls featured in our Beneath the Surface podcast interviews. with the individuals who need their specific carrier output wave. It also includes music and entertainment art, serving as an online repository for various topics of information. We seek to bridge the divide between various schools of thought so that our viewers can see that humanity is in agreement about so much more than they are led to believe. People are no longer able to decipher fact from fiction, hence the need for an omniversal override of the various news sources, because there's a difference between media and news. One is philosophical, the other is informational. Working in conjunction with the Omniversal News Network, we seek to keep the two separate yet whole. And then I imagine the yin and yang image. I actually have a painting that hangs over my stairway there that I did. We will bring you the food that your soul needs, and the Omniversal News Network will keep you informed. And so, can you tell us a little bit more about your background in journalism?
I would love to. So back when I was trying to choose a career, I don't know, my whole entire life, like so many of us, probably our career choice of what we want to do changes a million times. And I just knew I wanted to help people. I knew that. And I knew I wanted something that didn't have a linear, or what's the word for it? That didn't have like a roof, like where like you could only get to like a certain title and then you had to like stop. Like I would get bored. Like I need something that's just very expansive that I could be and move into any role at any time, or just change my role accordingly. And I kind of just oscillated between a few things. Like I wanted to be like an archaeologist to one thing, so I'm really into like ancient history and all of that stuff. So I was obsessed with the pyramids when I was like a young child and whatever. So I wanted to do that for a while. And then I thought I wanted to be a nurse because I love like medicine and I love helping people, whatever. And then I thought I wanted to be a teacher because I love teaching. And I wanted to be a psychologist because again, I want to like help people. And then the journalism thing came to me when I was like researching different careers, and because I love writing and reading. And it was just suddenly this natural, like, this is it, because like selfishly, and like, I do have an agenda for sure. One of my things was like, I selfishly want to know everything about everything. Like I'm just very inquisitive, and you can't just ask people like about their whole personal life. Like it's kind of like alarming, right? But if you say, oh, I'm a journalist, it kind of gives you this like free pass to just ask people like whatever you want. And people will tell you everything. They just start to open up to you the same way if you tell, like when people know I have a background in psychology, they immediately just start telling me all their problems because they know that it's not going to startle me because I've obviously probably heard stuff like this before. And same thing with the journalism thing. It's just like people automatically start to let their guard down and they just start talking. And I wanted to, and then I wanted to work for like an intelligence agency at one point because, I mean, no secret why, like the whole, but not like they're not what I thought they were. Like at one point I thought it would be like where they had all this like higher knowledge and secret, interesting classified stuff. And I'm sure they do to a degree, but now the information knowledge I seek, I realize is not stored on some flash drive somewhere. Like it is out there in the omniverse, which we forgot to define. So a lot of people don't even know what that is. And that's why I knew you and I had this amazing connection and like magical things were going to happen because no one's ever even used that word. I'm the only person I knew or know, like I'm the only person I knew forever before you and I met that even used the word omniverse or knew what it was. Yeah. And then you and I met and I'm like, someone else knows what this means. Like it was like this.
I was immediately like, hey, you're the only, why are you using this omniversal? What? Hold on, we gotta talk. What's your email? I sent you this and that. I don't ever use the messenger, but we gotta talk and this and that. And then it just came into this and here we are.
Yeah, no, it's, and so how I settled on the words, because I was like, I want to have my own like news network, but I want it to be information that is not like, third, like lower level, right? Like higher level information. Like, okay, maybe we still talk about the news. Like we can still talk about like the speech that happened today from Bush and everything. But now we're going to talk about the higher implications of it. What does that mean from a spiritual standpoint or
we're going to set the context of it.
Yes. Yes.
So that you're properly informed.
Yeah, 100%. And then when I was trying to think of a name for the news site, I was humming and hawing over all kinds of names. There was like Next Frontier News Network, like all these other ones, and nothing felt right. I'm like, no, this just sounds so like Star Trek-y and nothing wrong with that. But it just, I don't know, nothing resonated. And then one day the word Omniverse somehow came into my presence. I don't even know how I was researching something. And I found out that the Omniverse is everything in existence and creation that exists ever and ever has and ever will be. So that's all timelines from past, present, and future, all of like space and time, every dimension, just everything from the physical to the non-physical. And I was like, yeah, I want to talk about that. Like, whatever falls under that realm of everything, because then it's not limiting, right? That gives us the freedom and the space to talk about whatever our souls are guiding us to talk about, or to interview or have guests that are of very different slants of knowledge or information. I just didn't want limits or confines of who I could be. But if I could though, so when I took my degree in university, I finished my degree in 2012 at Mount Royal University, my journalism degree. And at the time, like, this is how different I was back then. I wanted to work for CNN. I know it's still sick. I have a hard time even talking about this. Because I thought that was making it as like a journalist. I wanted to be a news anchor on TV because I thought that like I would have control over what kind of information that I say. I could have my own like opinionated type show where I can speak my mind or something on CNN, like my own like Tucker Carlson type thing. Or I wanted to work for like BBC or New York Times, because at the time those were the gold standard of journalism. Like that's where we held, for example, like the New York Times, like that is the publication that before all the other news outlets start printing their stories, they'll see what the New York Times says first, and then they'll do their own rendition of it. So the New York Times has a lot of power. At least it did when I was in school. That was like our go-to. And I had no idea how corrupt the industry was or how controlled or censored it was until 2013. What was it? 2020, I want to say 2015 or something like that. And then it was about 2 years after the fact. And that's when I had heard about the citizen hearing on UFO disclosure that occurred in 2013 in Washington, D.C. And I find this online by accident. And I start, because it's a 30-hour fucking hearing that happened in Washington, D.C. And all the people that they interview are like military officials, government officials from, I believe, 11 different countries, including like Argentina. They had representatives from China there. The Canadian former National Minister of Defense was there. The British National Minister of Defense. Like, it was a huge thing. And they were all there sharing all of their knowledge and technology that they had about UFOs or aliens or extraterrestrials or whatever. And they're all taking like an oath and taking a stand. And I was like texting. I was so naive. I text every single person on my cell phone. I'm like, disclosure's happening. I'm like, get ready for it. I'm like, it's going to be like the next 9/11. Everyone's going to be glued to their TVs. Like it was like the 9/11, right? Where speak of the devil today. Today being 9/11. But then I watched like one of the clips of the hearing. So one of the senators, the big like burly guy at the front, like senators, he asks one of the officials, I believe, testifying, and he's like, okay, he's like, these aliens and all this stuff you guys are saying is real. How has this never been on the news before? Like, how are we just hearing about it now? And then the guy explains Operation Mockingbird, which was the first time I had heard about Operation Mockingbird. And I believe, please forgive me if I get some of these dates wrong, I think it was 1947, the CIA set about a mission to gain control over the world's news and narrative editing, creation, like all of that stuff. So they sent out like 50 or 60 operatives all around the world to work at every single influential news outlet that you could think of, like everywhere, from like the BBC, the New York Times, like anywhere that they thought was mildly influential. They sent out their operatives to like gather data and information, and they brought it back to the intelligence agency, and they said, okay, these are the networks that we would have to gain control over to control the world's public opinion. These are the ones that have the most power, the most sway. And then those are the ones that they installed in their operatives in. So like that was all the big stuff. So like the CNNs, the BBCs, the New York Times. Once they found this out, they made sure that anyone who was at the top of those agencies, because it's not like everyone who works there is an operative, like your rank and file journalists, like to give you an idea. So when I was working in the industry, I would pitch stories, like deep stories and stuff every week. Like you'd sit in an editorial room with you have your news director, your editor, who makes like kind of like the call and like the topics of what you guys are going to talk about for either your publication or the news show. Like if it's like a news program, that's like the 6 o'clock news, they do the same type of thing. So you sit in a room with all your other like top heads of the news company, and then you pitch your story. So everyone's in the room together, and each journalist is like, hey, I have a source that wants to talk about A, B, C, and D. I would say, I have a couple sources that want to talk about this issue. My angle is going to be this. I'm going to talk about ABCD. And we all kind of pitch our stories to the news director. And then the news director would make the choices of which ones were going to get cut and which ones were allowed to make it to air. So they are these gatekeepers of information, because if you pitch anything, like I worked for one publication, it was just like a small little magazine, like a community kind of magazine where you find it like skating rinks and stuff like that. And I wanted to do a story on all the theories of the universe, but in layman's terms. So like find a way to explain concepts like black holes and wormholes and all like that fun, crazy stuff, but in a way where like anyone can understand it for beginners, or like quantum physics and whatever. And they're like, our demographic is like stay-at-home moms. Like your story's like not going to make it. But like I understood like that stuff. But then you get to those like higher news agencies. And if you talk about like the Epstein story, right? Like you have What's Her Nuts from ABC, like that hot mic clip that got released of her saying, they told me right away that I wasn't allowed to release it. Any money, she did that. She was in a pitching room with her editors and was like, I got a good source on this. And they all were like, absolutely not. So here's where the intelligence agencies have all the power. They make sure that the news directors or whoever is the one who decides what stories make it, those ones are controlled. So those ones are the intelligence agency operatives. Some else below them, some of them maybe, but most of them are. Most of them are just journalists who are actually out there trying to do their job, but none of the good stuff they try to pitch forward is allowed to make it to the air, and they're forced to talk. Like, can I tell you like a heartbreaking story? When I was finished, I was in my third year of my degree, and we finally got a whole semester to do a story. I wanted to do a feature story so bad because we were forced to do all these like tiny little, just really boring stories. And I had decided to use my semester to expose the criminal justice system. I'm like, I'm going to do a justice piece where I like go to the prisons, I interview like prison guards, criminologists, everyone, and talk about just corruption in the criminal justice system. And I had probably 50 interviews, so like 50 different sources of high caliber that I had talked to. Because it was on, what do you call it, a written story at this time, was probably a good like 70 pages. And it was like a good story, but I found I couldn't complete it because I would go down one topic and like that would open the door to so much other corruption that was happening somewhere else. And it was like, I didn't know the criminal justice system had so much corruption and so much stuff to talk about, right? Like I thought I would start with prison overcrowding, and I ended up at like freaking it was just bigger than I thought. And then I ended up getting a D on my paper because it lacked a sense of completion, which I can understand because like I never was able to say like, this is all the corruption. Like wasn't able to give an answer as to why I went into the story to begin with. I just had a lot of really good information. And because I ended up realizing I didn't know I was trying to write a book at the time. It was like I ended up finishing 3/4 of a book type thing. Whereas like all the other students who took like the easy road and wrote like really surface pieces, like just like, oh, about this new bar that's opening in the city and like ladies' night on Wednesdays, they all got A+. Yeah, exactly. They all got like A+ on their paper. And I battled this the whole time I was in university. So like we would all write stories again. I would try and do something like deep and meaningful and put all this thought and time and energy and effort into it. I'd get like a C. And then the girl who decided to write the top 10 places to go for Wings Night would get an A+. So they start to weed out the real journalists like right away. Like it's systematic. Yeah. And so I felt like I just didn't have a chance. Like my type of, and that's when I kind of realized that like, real journalism was essentially dead. It's not that, again, that these journalists don't exist, but the ones that are like me that go into school for the right reasons, I would say 90% of the other students in my program, there was 70 of us at the time, all went into journalism because they wanted to be famous. If that's a fucking stupid enough reason to go into journalism. The rest of them who like maybe went in because they wanted to write or whatever, none of them had a desire to like really expose the truth or like expose injustice. Like I thought that's why everyone went into journalism. That was like common sense. And you get in and they're like, oh, I just want to talk about sports, or like, I just want to be like pretty on camera. Like nobody actually went into it for the right reason. And then you wonder why you have all these stupid talking heads at like the 6 o'clock news. That's the people, that's who they choose from. They who don't care about the truth. They literally don't care. I'm getting heated talking about this because obviously I have some vested interest. It's very frustrating. It's
a very dangerous line of work to be in if you're going to really be about it. In fact, I've got a song that I'm working on writing. I may move it to another project of mine, but it's called Journalists, just because I deeply respect people of that who choose that dangerous line of work. If you're going to be real about it, because without the journalists, then. And when I'm using the term journalist, I'm using it in the terms of what we're trying to define here. We're not talking about talking heads.
Yeah.
It's funny, I remember being a child and my father watching TV and he used that term talking heads. And I was a kid and I was like, what does that mean? He's like, they're just heads on the screen that talk. It didn't make any sense, but used in this context, it does. But the words for the song say, if I tell you what is real, then they will kill me and reveal these signs. The only truth is that the youth will never hear these rhymes. If in this booth I let loose, then they will still be blind. But if I'm silent, all the violence won't be healed. So I must remain and try to change and shift these lanes. We've been driving around in circles, but we insist that we've stayed on the path. But I have to resist these claims. So I ask that in this track that you witness flames burning down the whole infirmary. My words are more than sure to be enough to fuck shit up. It's what these journalists are journaling that tell the story to the world, but you're concerned with worshiping shit that makes you feel as if this senselessness is nurturing. And so it's really interesting because we do have all of these talking heads, if you will. We do have all of these surface level things. Like that's what the title of me using the Omniversal media, because with me and my art and this and that, and just the whole idea of this and the title of the podcast, Beneath the Surface Podcast, like what do we need right now? We need for people to just point out what's laying right below the surface of our conscious awareness, like where they want to keep us. And you're talking about the people that make the decision of, yes, this story gets to go, this story's not. But they are trained to spot people like you from the jump and say, no, you're definitely not what we need. And I've run into that my entire life in just any field of work. I come in and I'm about what I'm about. And the people in charge of things see me and they say, you're not going to last here because we can't let you ruin our business model here.
Yeah.
We're not interested in it. I've been doing residential heating and air for the last 10, 12 years.
Very deep work.
And I wanted, very deep work, but I wanted to actually help people because as far as helping people fix their heating and cooling stuff so that they don't die in the winter or die in the summer. I took
that's so sweet.
I took it very serious because.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make light of it.
I'm just taking it deep. I'm taking it beneath the surface here.
Sorry.
But I had to come up with some kind of way to justify what I was doing for money myself so that I could live with myself. And so I found meaning and I was like, okay, I'm providing a very important essential service. But in these other companies, I now work for a very small company. It's just me and the owner. And so we focus on fixing people's equipment. And we get paid honestly for honest work. I can live with that. But at these bigger companies where I was getting a steady paycheck, maybe benefits, insurance, this and that, all that natural stuff that we would normally seek in a job, I was unfit because I wouldn't just go be a salesperson. I wouldn't just say, oh, you need to replace this. I'd say, you did a good job of taking care of your equipment. Just keep doing it. It'll last for years longer. And I got fired for things like that because they look at people, and especially, and you mentioned the thing in 1947 and this and that. I'm familiar with the thing you mentioned. I think it was 2015 you were talking about.
When I heard about it, and then the hearing took place 2013.
The hearing is what I'm familiar with. I remember looking back at that, and they all got together. It's like, why aren't they talking about this? And it's like, oh, because way back when we made sure that nobody was ever going to allow that. And so now you're kind of pulling back that veil and showing us how it really works. And anyone that's an actual journalist, if you will, they're out there, but they don't have a platform. And so that's what I'm trying to create here, is to not so much argue against the narrative that they're pushing, but just to build a foundation to find these people like yourself and others and give them somewhere to put this information out there, because it's what we're lacking. It's as a whole with humanity, it's not so much that everybody's just stupid and they're dumb sheep. It's that they're purposely misinformed and disinformed from the jump, like from the time we're kids and we're raised in it. And then we go forward in complete ignorance. And then we're even taught to ostracize those who dare to be anti-narrative, to dare to even hold an opinion that, that maybe you shouldn't get this experimental vaccine shoved into your veins, 8 months after, in 8 months, people that think like that, they're now dangerous domestic terrorists. They're the biggest threat in the world. Why? Because that's where the game's at right now.
I know.
from the
And
control.
before we get off, can I mention one more thing about journalism before we just get off topic? Because
You can take control.
sorry, because if we go too off, it will be too weird to come back to it. But something else had come to my mind as you were talking about like pulling the veil back about the industry. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot to mention one thing we know about, but we don't know who or what agency is behind it yet. Is that I'm sure you've seen these mashup videos from news networks from all over the world, all reading from the same script on the teleprompters from everywhere, though. We're talking like news anchors. It could be from a big mainstream news network all over the world. And one thing, none of me or my other journalist friends, professors, we've all talked about this. No one knows who's writing that script that's going broadcast across the world. All we know is the news directors. So the news directors at the top of all these agencies, they get the script from somewhere, someone, and then they give it to their talking heads to read. And those talking heads read that script verbatim down to when to laugh, how to talk. Like it is very, very scripted.
The identical intonations that they are.
Yeah, it's creepy. Like, but
It's deep
it?
psychological manipulations and neuro-linguistic programming, which is what I'm seeking to kind of reverse the curse we put out there. And we do that through just talking like this. I mean, how many times have you found a random YouTube video about some podcast or just people having a conversation, and the conversation just like sinks right up with right where you're at? And these people in the talk, they don't know you personally, but they're saying exactly what you need to hear.
Yeah.
And yeah. I think it's very interesting that y'all talk about the fact that nobody knows who these scriptwriters are, where it comes from. That's how secretive it is.
It is.
That's how important it is. That's how important it is to them. It always astounds me with the great lengths that they will go to maintain their control. And it's because they don't have any actual power. It's us individuals who have the power. We have to control what we are allowed to think, basically.
Yeah. And can you imagine, like, sometimes all the time, I get very frustrated about the efforts that are being done to all of us systematically to dumb down, not only dumbs down, but like lower our vibration and prevent us from reaching our spiritual potential, from like fluoride calcifying our pineal glands in the water to who knows what's being in the air from chemtrails to God knows what they're using for sound technology that actually alters our vibration, stuff we can't even hear with our physical ears, but that's manipulating our energy field. And then same thing with like Wi-Fi or radiation, like how that's manipulating and lowering our energetic frequency. And you think about all the time, energy, and resources they put into doing that to us, and you wonder why. It's like, imagine if we actually reach our full potential, which is my goal. I'm like, I really want to do it in this lifetime, because I don't know about you, I have a very strong feeling, I just kind of always have, that this is like this lifetime, that we're here for the last of it. Whatever's going to happen on planet, I don't know. But to me, like, this is it. Like this life, I got goosebumps. I got goosebumps. Yeah, it's the truth. Woo!
I'm going to take this opportunity. I'm going to try to do this. I told you that you inspired, one of your posts inspired a song that I actually put at the start of my Behold the Pale Horse album. The title of it is Warning Shots. So if you have like 2 minutes here.
Yes, please.
It's actually 3 minutes long, but it was a post that you made about something referring to just, I don't remember the exact post, but you're really fired up. It was one of those apocalypse posts, like, with like the reckoning for you guys, and we're going to quarantine you all off and reform you dark controllers or something like that. It was this big long post. It just really spoke to that part of me that I was just like, yeah, that's what we're here for, because this all ends this time around. So
yeah, it does.
I'm just going to play this.
Yo, Hawkeye is back with part 2 of the mixtape sessions. Listen up. Yo, let me start by saying that I have come to slay 'em. All the agents in this matrix keep playing, but when my tongue starts laying, vocal tracks is conveying warning shots to make 'em all start praying. My detrimental instrumentals keep this dental work official, experimental with this pencil. I'm preventing accidental contamination of my station. This creation's too amazing. Incantations take shape as there's notations in the making, so all enemies beware, cause I don't fight fair. fear, and any entity that mentions me pretentiously dares to destroy their own health. The suicide, see for yourself to come against me or defend to divine help for something else. Even Satan stands back when I attack, it's a fact. Cause when I rap on these tracks, my evil spells climax. Just to be honest, I'm flawless, that's why I flaunt it. This transmission admonition seems haunted. A reincarnated galactic warlord, so don't test. I wrote the book on how to cook them when they're wet. My mission simple, take offensive measures specifically to cripple every signal in the temple, then rekindle ancient symbols to remind my star tribe we're here to thrive, not just survive. So come along, it's now time to heal this world back to life. I'll keep these demons in a vice, grip and make them sit as I spit this wicked shit. It's legit, the picture fit, but as they bitch, I'll dig the pit a little deeper so the people can heal. And every demon knows my name, and this is not a game. It's a shame that I have to explain. So thank you for coming out, thank you for tuning in. If you liked full disclosure, behold a pale horse is gonna blow your top back. This is dedicated to William Cooper. And so with everything I've got, I'm erasing the whole plot. Fuck the storyboard, the moral's kinda gory, make it stop. And if I let them live, then every agent gets to spend the next 50,000 years with me as I make them repeat. You see, every providential central issue's exponential, every existential differential is confidential. So to say that it's essential for me to blow the whistle, such an understatement. I should take this all the way and send a missile. This whole system's my new victim, my existence reads resistant. This edition was predicted long ago in case you missed it. Full submission, this tactician's automatic tongue dispenses, rapes the faces.
So yeah, you were the inspiration, especially the second verse of that song where I say, so with everything I've got, I'm erasing the whole plot. Fuck their storyboard. The moral is kind of gory, so make it stop.
Love it. And I love when I see, for me, like, I resonate with music on two levels, as probably a lot of people do. Like, I hear that tune and beat, and I'm like, yeah, I don't even realize what I'm listening to. But I like reading the words. Like, that's where I like will analyze a song after. And when I read the words for your songs, like, the music's amazing. I have such an admiration for people who create music because I have a decent voice, but fuck, if I tried to write a song or anyways, and you guys are just amazing. But yeah, when I read the words to your songs, it's not only deep poetry, like, it's so poetic, but there's no other music out there like it. And if there is, like, I don't know who that person is, but like that I know of, I've never come across it in my life. Like, the closest I would say would be like Tupac, I guess, maybe, because his stuff was much more deeper. But I don't know. I think yours is like the only of its genre and of its, not even just the genre, just music in general that talks about this stuff, fighting dark entities and stuff. Yeah. Who else talks about that? Nobody.
And the reason that I started writing all of this, because actually I was a guitarist, this and that. I was into the rock and roll scene. But then I got very much into trying to wake people up online through Facebook and social media. I was just wasting all of my energy. Like, the algorithms were like priming me to pour all of my deep thoughts into some big, long, giant post that no one was ever going to read. And no one did read it. And the people that did read it, the one or two that appreciated it, they'd be like, yeah, thumbs up. And then other people would just be like, Ethan, why don't you just shut the fuck up? You're just, and so it just left me always frustrated.
Yeah.
And there's an artist, there's only one artist that I can say is my inspiration with the rap music, and his name is Deca, Deca. He's much more cryptic with his lyrics, but it speaks to the deeper part of me. And I just realized, I can get the same messages across, and I can put some music behind it, and I can make it rhyme. And then I'm creeping in through the back door of people's minds and forcing them to get the message. It's getting in there. The vocalized tones and frequencies of my voice is penetrating that mental block that is moving behind the veil of their consciousness. And it's injecting something organic and real. And so I taught myself how to write the raps, how to rap myself. It was always something I felt like I was ill-equipped to do. Yeah. And so it's really it went from being like just an idea of trying to continue on with my social media rants, and it turned into very deeply, because I needed somewhere to vent all of this frustration with the state of the world, this and that. And it went from that to this, where we're at today, and songs like that. Because I also wanted to let these dark forces know, and I wanted to make them really feel me, to say, I'm talking to you, And you should be very afraid, because when humanity comes back online, as you were saying before, they're putting in all of this energy. They're going to these great lengths. They're manipulating our field at every juncture that they can. I realize they're doing all of that because they have to. If they don't, it's game over for them.
Yeah,
so I'm coming through with the music saying, here's your warning shot. It's too late. I'm here. Ironically, full disclosure, the first music that I released came out March the 1st, 2020. That was the release date. I just chose that date. And then a few days later, like a week later, they shut down the whole world because Epstein didn't kill himself and coronavirus took over. And I released the music, and then like a week later, all this goes on. And I got really scared because I was like, uh-oh, what have I done? I've locked down the whole world. That was their response to this. But there's a part of me that was just like, good. They heard the message. They heard me. And so I'm just coming through with that. But I just want to point out the fact that it was your post that inspired the first song on the Hold the Pale Horse album. And all of my albums so far have been dedicated to people who are no longer with us. They were in my opinion, all three of them, the three mixtapes I'm working with, they're each martyred for putting out information in a way that got through to people. And it was too powerful for them to stop.
Yeah.
So they had to get rid of them. And so they have to silence the people doing that.
I know, it's horrible. And it's horrible and really sad and everything. But the only positive thing, I guess, out of it is, like you said, they're doing this because they literally need to. Like, this really is game over. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen on this planet after our lifetime, but I feel like in terms of humanity's, I just feel like whatever is going on here, we're not going to be the same as we are now. Like, we're going to be a different version of ourselves, like evolved. I don't know what that means yet, but in my mind, I imagine, like, I don't know. I imagine us like where we can be in our physical form and we can present ourselves like this if we want to, like, experience the desires of the flesh. We can have the best of both worlds. We no longer have to choose between the physical and the etheric, like where we're either in spirit form or physical form. We can be this and be like, oh, I want to have some grapes today, or I want to get a little naughty or whatever. Or if we want, we can fly, we can teleport, we can build with our mind. Like, have you seen the movie Lucy?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
So kind of like,
Exactly.
yeah, exactly like that, right? In the very end, when she's at her 100%. But then I was saying to my husband too, when she got to the 100% and she started at the very end, when she's like fast forwarding time and sort of rewinding time all the way back to the beginning, I'm like, man, I'd be bored after a couple hours if I had that kind of power, because I would instantly watch like everything that happened in history, download it all, then I'd be like, okay, now what? The search is kind of fun too. And I guess that's maybe why we don't know everything and have everything all at once, because we would just, what would be the point of it if we did? I love kind of the journey. But yeah, I imagine us with like infinite powers. So no wonder why they're fucking afraid of us. Can you imagine if you and I or any human being on the planet suddenly had the ability to teleport? What a national security threat that is. You just show up at the Bilderberg meeting. You're like, hey guys, like, I'm here, bitches. And like bullets just fly through you. Or you're like Keanu Reeves in the Matrix. Like, they can't let this shit happen. But people don't realize that we actually have that, like, it's possible. Like, we can get there. Let's just think about that.
You know, what happens when let's say we form our own intelligence agency, and all that we really lack is the organization and the resources to make that happen, to tap into these abilities, if you will, and have our own Delta Force go in and say, stand down.
Or else.
Why? Because Omniversal decree of you can't do this shit here, because you're interfering with people's free will. And
big time.
This sphere, you can't do that here. You can't go out there.
We can create them a nice little dark place with, like, they can just go somewhere. I don't know. We'll create them some little prison planet of their own that actually is a prison planet, and they can all just like kill each other, fight each other for fun all day. Like, I don't.
I have an interesting question here. It's a good question for me to ask you in particular, and that is, you said take them to an actual prison planet, implying that this one, even though we refer to it as a prison planet all the time, it's not actually a prison planet. That's like the overlay. Can you tell me more about your thoughts on that? Just the fact that they kind of trained us all in our little circles of woke folk, I hate that term, to refer to this place as a prison planet, because the whole planet is like this big prison, but it's not actually, because like trees grow and there's the rain falls and the sun shines, and it's just
I'd love to expand on this. So I don't have like the answer. I mean, I don't know for sure what happened in our ancient history and ancient past, like in terms of humanity's what happened. But I think what I imagine when I close my eyes and I try to imagine what it was like a long time ago, like ancient Atlantean times, I think there was a time on Earth when the future you and I were just talking about, like us being able to teleport and being our actual 100% potential. I feel like we were already, I just got goosebumps.
Yeah.
I feel like we were already like that at some point here.
Chills.
I know, right? Like, don't you love that? We don't even have to wonder. We're like, oh, it is the truth. Okay, cool. So thank you.
It reminds me of Please Don't Lose Your Point. There is a song at the end of the first album, Full Disclosure, and it's titled The Story of Our Former Glory. Anyways, you go look at that later. Continue on with.
So I 100% think that we were at some point of that caliber. Like in terms of vibration, I think humans were very almost non-physical, almost more spiritual beings where we could maybe morph into a physical form, but like we spent a lot of our times more. We probably we'd show up as like a ghost today, I think. It's like to our physical eyes, if we saw our past selves, it would be like what we think was a spirit or some kind of astral or etheric being. But we could like teleport, we could travel space and time, which is why I think we have the dreams that we do now and the visualizations and the memories and the downloads, because we're tapping into that ancient version of ourselves that used to actually do those things, that used to actually fucking close their eyes and then just teleport to their side of the universe by just thinking about it. And I don't know what happened, but somewhere along the line in our paradise of a planet, like on this like paradise of a living library of like every life form from the insects, because I don't think that's common in the universe. I think that is one thing that is quite unique about Earth. Again, I don't know, but in terms of the diversity of the life forms in the ecosystem, it seems like whoever designed this place, like it was designed with intention. And
so again, major chills, like actual goosebumps popping up right now because of all of what you just said. Is now we never talked like this before. We had that brief meeting before and everything. The time wasn't right, but in my own personal understanding, we'll just leave it at that. And my own personal beliefs are so much in line with what you just said that I term it as what is this planet? It's this living library of life where all of these life forms throughout the omniverse was brought here to preserve it.
yes.
As a memory, so that this soul from this and whatever and this one can meet back up and have like a family reunion. And that's why on this planet there's so many different life forms that we're still finding new ones, and we literally can't name them all. We can calculate how far it is to the black hole at the center of galaxy, whatever, 83 billion light years away, or however. We can do all that through our computers and telescopes, but we can't figure out how many different life forms we have here, because then we find a new species. And so the diversity of that life is all of those different soul aspects throughout the omniverse incarnated here into some physical form, whether it's a tree or a bird or a person. And then it leads me into thinking, what are us humans here? You know, the tree is here to be the tree, the dog is here to be the dog. Why are the humans? And I think it goes so far as to say that we just come back here to be the protectors of that, librarians, if you will. And we've got the guardians. We've gotten lost along the way.
Yeah, we're infiltrated and like taken over by some
exactly, because what we have here on this non-prison planet is so precious that they're putting all of this effort into it throughout the eons to try to take it. But in order to take it, they have to get rid of us first.
Humanity.
And, you know, I can hear it. I can hear the trees and just nature and everything crying out saying, please, humans, please do your job. We keep you breathing. Please do your job so that we can keep everything else alive here, because what's going on here is much more important than your TVs and this and that tell you. It's so very ancient. It's this living library of life. And just all of what you said is like directly in line with the understanding I've come to. That's why I formed the website and the company and all of this and that, is just to disseminate that ancient wisdom that we need to return to our former glory. We need to remember that story, because I believe that it's not something necessary that you need to, that doctrine that you need to write out and teach to people. It's something that we all have encoded in us, that memory. And what we need is for people like you and I to come together to say, hey, let's talk about this and that. Is this a prison planet? No, actually, this is. So you need to hear it again. You need to hear the story again, and then it reawakens that memory within you. And then all of a sudden, like when you cut your finger, you don't have to will your finger to heal itself. It's just naturally going to heal itself. And that's kind of how I see humanity healing itself, whatever it is that went on. You bring back the correct informational sets, and then the DNA can restructure itself collectively across the globe to where we return to what we actually are, which is so far away from being a prison planet that it's kind of comical that like they inserted that into the lexicon, if you will.
It feels like that, I think, for us sometimes, because we know we're like these divine beings, and we do feel in many ways like trapped. Like we just know deep down we're so capable of so much more, and that there's so much more meaning to life, yet we're fed this version of reality that we know in our souls is wrong. So in a way, yeah, it kind of feels like a prison, but all of that is by design, by a harmful design. And again, I don't know how and when and like how this started, how we went from being these like ancient, and we see evidence, archaeological evidence, that the planet at one time in our ancient history, possibly billions of years ago now, there was like bolts and nuts and stuff found that are dated, carbon dating back to billions of years. Like we just don't know how long our history goes at this point, or how many. They think that we're the fifth race, they call it, like that human civilization has risen to our max point and then fallen now like 5 times over Earth's creation over billions of years. So we don't really know. So we see all these like ancient Egyptian artifacts, Atlantean, Chinese, whatever. They can be from different eras, like from completely different civilizations, yet we find these commonalities at the same time. One seems to be the pyramid structure, for one, not just here, but even through the solar system.
Yeah.
And so like it seems like at one point we were like this really ancient, evolved global civilization. There wasn't like countries or whatever. We were just like planet Earth, like humanity, one race, whatever. And then something bad happened, and I don't know what. And I've had many different dreams about it and visions, and I don't know how to interpret it. But what my heart tells me is there was some kind of like breach of. I should have goosebumps. Okay, so like some kind of, so you imagine like the Jedis. I hate to use this example, like it's more 3D example, but let's just go with the Jedis. What happened to them? So you have this like enlightened council of like wise masters and whatever is kind of how I remember or imagine like ancient civilization. And then you have an intruder who makes it on the inside, right? So Darth Vader or Anakin, what's his last name? I want to say Anakin Skywalker, Anakin, the little Darth Vader boy, but, gets in and then ends up choosing like who was supposed to be the ultimate Jedi, right? Like he had the most mitochondrion in him. He ends up choosing the path of the dark side and completely destroys the Jedi force from like within, because he took the side of the dark side. And I think something like that happened to us in our ancient times, where like some kind of bad energy was brought here somehow from somewhere. I feel like some kind of dark ritual type magic thing happened that opened some kind of hole in a dimension or space time, like something that we couldn't anticipate. Even the wisest elders just never saw it coming. Mm-hmm. And then boom, when they finally realized what was happening, it was just too late. And I feel like it was also like mechanic in nature, because I feel like the ancient masters of this time, they fought with energy, so they could fight. Have you ever watched Airbender, Avatar: The Last Airbender?
Yes, I have.
Okay. So like back then, how they used to fight with like the elements, I think that humans were like that at one point, where we could actually like lift up rocks and like fight with the air and the water. So imagine humans being like that, but now suddenly having these like giant like UFOs coming in, these metallic things shooting us with guns and lasers. Like as much as we could like try to use the elements and the energy, we wouldn't stand a chance against that type of technology. And I think that's how we were wiped out, or how like our ancient civilization may have been wiped out. And this is just a theory. I have no idea. And then from that point on, it's basically been this like, how do we enslave humanity? How do we, I'm guessing maybe they came here to prevent us from reaching our ultimate destiny, because that affects them somehow in some way that I guess we'll probably eliminate them. But yeah, I don't know. I'm rambling.
I'm going to pause for a moment. And when we come back, I'm gonna there's all of what you just said lead me into again from this song that I've got the lyrics here, and I actually sent you a copy of the lyrics.
I read them today.
But it says, if you hear it, don't get near it. Full submission, this tactician's automatic tongue dispensing rapes defenses. Did I mention my exposition is one dimension away from alien transmission? So if you hear it, don't get near it. This ignition switch is so legit. I'll never quit. And this is the part. When this war is finally over and all this evil stops, I'll have to make sure that Watiko is not forgot. So tell the demons in the box that I'm back, and I'll keep it locked.
So the demons in the box and Watiko. So what happened, this and that.
Scales like this,
And,
I find it troubling. How can I describe one branch when there are other limbs? Fleeing singularities while they're doubling. Coming out the face of multiverse right in front of him. Nowhere to hide, the vast smothers him. A gram's number of gigaparsecs to the upper rim. Hyper realms absent temporal cause. Every unique cosmic set with different physical laws. Plus every species capable of computation probably has supercomputer run simulations. With a population trying to explain it with its own Dr. Gates and its own language. Dirty windshields hinder our comprehension while tracking
You were
our
actually saying-
attractors aiming for ascension.
Right? Your lyrics, you said the word like Wakita. What was that word?
the word was Watiko.
Watika.
Wetiko. There's a book called Dispelling Watiko by a guy named Paul Levy, I think it is.
Okay.
And I read this book, and what it's describing is this psychic parasite that infects the minds of men and turns them into this greed-filled monster, basically, that just constantly needs to consume more and more psychic fuel or consciousness, if you will. And its main characteristic is that it does not want you to know that it's there. It's its own thing. It's indigenous cultures around the world all have their own legend of this thing. It's just you'd have to read the book to really get.
What's it called again?
Dispelling Watiko.
I've never heard of that. I'm super intrigued now. Have you ever had experiences? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. It's something that I'll send you a link to it so that you can find it and look into it yourself. But I read this book, and as I was reading this book, it's kind of like this memory came back to me of there being long ago these intruders, if you will, that came from, and I'm just going to use some creative language here to kind of get across my point. We have this omniverse, but imagine that there's another omniverse out there, and there's these actual like malevolent demons, if you will, these creatures, and they just consume their entire omniverse, if you will, and they somehow ate away through into our omniverse. And when they came through, these omniversal guardian forces couldn't get rid of them because there's nowhere to get rid of them to what's outside the omniverse. I don't know. So they had to contain it to stop it from consuming this one as well, like a black hole, if you will. But so into this box, these demons went, and best way to contain them would be to place this box somewhere where it would be. We
could transmute them maybe into something else. Like maybe we could essentially invert their energy, like because energy can be created or destroyed. But like, don't you have this feeling that there's almost like two types of beings out there, two types of like beings. Like there's like light beings, like humans, and animals and nature and all of that, that if you look at the auric field or the energy field, it's a white light. Like we're all made of this white light thing, and we feed off of that energy. But there's like this inverse. There's this opposing energy that's supposed to be the dark.
The upside down, like mentioned in
upside down, literally the upside down. And I've experienced these entities. That's what I was going to ask you, if you've ever encountered shadow beings or like actual dark entities that try to suck your soul out. It sounds like a stupid analogy, but the best one I have is the scene off Harry Potter with the Dementors, when it's like trying to suck his soul and it's eating his light. It's actually eating it like a freaking black hole. And somehow these fucking light suckers got here that like feed off of our life force energy, and they're not from here. I don't know how they got in, but they're definitely an intruder species or force or whatever. But maybe there's a way to like invert them, like the way a black hole, from what I understand, consumes that light, but then like shoots it out in like another form somewhere else or something like that. Maybe that's, I don't know how we do this exactly with them. So like, but maybe we transmute it somehow, invert it back to the lights. Like, is that even a thing?
I'm not sure, but I do know that containing it is in this storyline in my head that I reference in my music several times when I say the demons in the box. There's this box that we contain the actual source of these black hole entities, if you will, these invaders, to stop them from just absolutely destroying everything, because we couldn't destroy them. There wasn't anything really to fight. But
no,
through the medium of this psychic parasite, this Watiko that I'm referencing, they still are able to influence the psychic field from within this containment. And then it goes into the machine, the CERN, and all of this and that, and then ripping open holes. What that is through this psychic parasite, from them using it as mouthpiece from the inside of their containment to influence us who have the power to either open the box or keep it closed, to build a machine capable of opening said box. We talked about this time period and why we're here and this and that. And I wrote these lyrics. My soul is so old that it would scare you if I told you what I remember. Divine embers now behold, it is written in the stars. We are warriors at heart, reincarnated beings, yet we came here from afar to protect this planet at all cost from the demons in the box. But take a look at just what we have lost. We used to all be amazed by the life that we had saved. Instead of rotting in the grave, we just decided that we'd stay, whether in the form of a tree or a human being. Anyways, but those days are long gone, and now Watiko grows on, ever present. This peasant still spawns in our mind. It just blinds and keeps us in the slime. If I could just remind you, then we'd all be fine. But this clever parasite obscures your sight. So in this fight, there's no light, and it's not right, but there's time. Because the devil hasn't won. I am back. He is done. Now just listen to my raps, because I insist this is fun. When our tribe comes together, there's no storm we can't weather. You don't have to believe me, but I wrote you this letter. So that's just my creative fictional tale, if you will, of a storyline of what it is that happened in our galactic history, I guess you'd say, to cause us to forget our former glory. That's that song. That's lyrics from that song that I mentioned earlier. And Watiko is their ability to, it's the medium through which they still affect the world and kind of conscript us all into their service, but we don't even know that they exist inside of this box, metaphorically, or what Watiko is. So this guy writes this book, Dispelling Watiko, and it all just kind of comes back, flash memory download for me. And of course, it's not in English, this communication, so it's kind of difficult to translate other than through using metaphors and allegory.
Yeah.
But I know that I can tell from what you've already said that you have some sense of what I'm talking about here, using the Dementors as a good example. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, as far as like reversing the curse for them, the soul suckers, I don't know if that's possible, but I know that through dispelling this Watiko force, we are able to reverse the curse for us and kind of restore that balance to get back to where we were long ago, which is where we're headed in our future. Because I can imagine time is like now locked into this loop, and we've just been stuck here instead of having the infinity spiral of life, supporting life, kind of like the sun, rain, and tree.
Yes.
Theory, this and that.
We're so out of balance. Like but it's okay. We're on a freaking dividing, polarizing path. That's for sure. There's no in between anymore. There's no like taking the middle ground. Like, not to middle pass, it's a different thing, but like, you could ride the fence to be a fence sitter on a lot of issues. Like, those days are gone now. It's like light or dark, bitch. Like, which one are you? Like, life or death, service to self, service to others. Pick a fucking side, because it's go time. Like, we're in the middle of a very serious war. People think of war as like guns and like, blah, 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 blah. Okay, sure, that's one form of it. But this is like a actual spiritual, psychic warfare that we're in. And
now it's in place. Now it's now it's them on national television, worldwide television, international television, that would be the term. Them saying the new world order. They're just out front with it. All these conspiracy theories the last however many years using the term new world order. Now they're literally saying it for everyone to hear. And it's gotten really real. And I'm not sure if this whole Epstein not killing himself, COVID-19 killing him off or whatever. I don't know if it's a good thing that's happened, or if it's a really bad thing that's happened. But I do know one thing is that it did happen. We are here now, and nobody can really deny it anymore, that we are in the middle of this war that people throughout the ages have been telling us this is going on. I think back about the things that Jesus said. He was saying, you don't see what's going on here, this and that. But he also said, what we're talking about here. He said, the kingdom of heaven is among you. You just can't see it. Basically, that's what he was saying. He's saying it's all around you. It's right here. You're here.
I'm in here.
He's saying it's all around you. You're blind to it. But now, worldwide, it's like everybody has to choose. Are you gonna lay down and die, or are you gonna
be what you're here to be? Are you going to keep lying to yourself, pretending this and that? Because life's never going back to normal, because there was nothing normal about it in the first place. And I don't know, do you think it's a good thing with all what's happened, that we've reached this tipping point, so to speak?
It's hard to say, like you said, because it you can look at it so many different ways, right? Like you look at the state of things right now, like in my job, for example, it's mandatory masking. We got to wear masks all day. I got to enforce those policies. Like it's soul sucking. Like it kills me to have to do this. But at the same time, I'm also seeing so many people wake up as a result of the extremeness and the craziness and the insanity of it all. It almost took that to open people's eyes to things. Like I know, like when my husband and I like first met, like I would wear that badge, conspiracy theorist, proudly. And he was like skeptical about so many of these things. But now even he's like more about prepping now and getting to go off grid than I am. Like I thought I was like a prepper, and he's like, hey, we got to go through like our list of like, what do we need next to buy like for prepping, and
the practical application of it all, because that's how serious it is to him. My boss, and not to veer, I'm going to hear more of where you were going with that, but I just wanted to add in that my boss, I've worked with him for like 12 years now. He's never been conspiracy minded or anything. He's the type of person that watches football all the time and is oblivious to anything going on and doesn't really have an opinion about any of that other than shut up, the game's on. And all of this COVID stuff comes around and he just refuses to wear a mask. And then he actually got COVID recently, and his dad called him, so you going to get vaccinated now? He's like, fuck no, I'm not getting vaccinated. What are you talking about, this and that? And he actually gave it to me, and I got a very mild symptoms, like 2 or 3 days, and it was gone. But he actually got really sick. And now we had a conversation with a customer just the other day about how we've been in and out of houses working on people's air conditioning equipment, which circulates all of the air in their house from the start of this thing. And neither one of us got sick in the least until the vaccines came out.
I know.
And now they're super spreading, I guess. Yeah. And so this guy who's just completely oblivious, I thought, all of this comes about, and he's just sitting here watching it. He's saying, this is too weird for me to just go along with it. He's still not even really conspiracy minded, but we have conversations about stuff because he knows how I am, and he's always just like, whatever, this is Ethan. But now he's like, yeah, and on that note, this and this, and he's just going off about it, telling me his thoughts that he's never expressed before, because it's brought it out of him to be like, no, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like the new normal is normal, because it's not. It's weird, and it's the weirdness of it that makes me say, I don't care. I'm not going to take your vaccine. And it's like just the level of propaganda that they're pushing is so alarming that it doesn't really matter what any doctor over here said. Not that you can believe what anybody says anyways.
It's allowed on the news.
It doesn't really matter what the truth is about the virus or the vaccine and its safety or the danger of the virus. What matters is I got the virus, I got sick, it was bad, but I got through it. And I'm not going to take the experimental vaccine that's been out for less than a year that they're trying to force on everybody. Just like I wasn't going to wear a mask because it's just insane. And this is this guy who just, a few years back, I'm pretty sure that he was, in my mind, he was just one of the sheep. And now I'm seeing, he never was. It wasn't important enough for him to care about it. And now he's just like waking up, so to speak, or being more vocal about it. And it's just really interesting for me to watch and to see. And then you mentioned that with him taking the practical standpoint of being like, we got to prepare because he sees it. He sees where it was, where it's gotten to. And he's like, we see where it's going. So I'm going to take the steps that I need to prepare. And it's just very interesting times we live in. Sorry, I kind of hijacked that whole thing.
No, it's okay. It's a interesting topic, right? Like you talk to anyone now, and everyone has such strong emotions and feelings on it from one side or another. And that is definitely one of the intentions. And I was going to say too, like you're talking about like the news and these people on these doctors that they let on the news, again, some of them a media background, they only ever let like people like the experts who are out there talking are people who only push the narrative. I don't need to tell you this, but just anyone who's watching, or that they only bring people on who are going to like push the narrative they're talking about. They're not going to bring doctors on that are going against whatever that narrative is, again, that we have the script writers, whoever they are, pushing out for like the New World Order global agenda. They also need to be working for one agenda. But yeah, like, I don't know as well. Sorry.
I was just going to remind everybody, these script writers, nobody knows who they are, even
Ashley here saying, she sit around talking with people saying, who's writing these scripts? We know that they're writing the scripts. You've seen the evidence. We don't know.
We just don't.
So I just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's. I mean, my guess is it's like it's probably a combination of a multitude of like intelligence agencies. You probably have like MI6, the CIA sees this in Canada. Who knows? It's probably or it could be a secret thing that we don't even know about altogether. I mean, it's just we could speculate all day. But
quantum supercomputer typed it up and said, "Give this to the people."
Yeah, I'm not even past
all the simulations. We ran all the simulations,
right?
So it would work, and this.
Yeah, this is the narrative.
Say it with this and emphasize this term. Like this,
yeah.
Like, how do they even translate that into their script writing? Like, because the way that they say the things on every station, it's all the same. The way.
And do you notice how they all talk like this in the same voice? So today we're going to look at, like, they literally talk like a bunch of robots. It's freaky. They don't have natural human, like, I'm like, are these, we're going to talk about, we want to go to reptilians. We don't want to lose our audience. Like, seriously, like, I'm like, what? Like, I watch those videos of like people supposedly like shape shifting, and I'm sure some of it's editing and like glitches and things like that happen. But I swear I've seen stuff of like mainstream media news anchors where like their eyes do the like reptilian thing, like a lot of videos like this. Yeah. And I'm like, it's like the fucking
makes you wonder about that They Live movie.
I know, freaks me out.
And then I always think, my mind always says, why was They Live even a movie? Like, who had this idea to film this and all this and that? And why was that a thing? Like The Matrix and just Terminator and just all this stuff. Why did these stories exist? And I think it's because these stories exist. Some part of our inner knowing, that higher self, if you will, is trying to communicate across throughout the collective and say, hey, here's the real reality. Here's what's behind the veil. Here's what's beneath the surface, if you will. But they present it to us in this fictional narrative. And then our minds say, oh, okay, I can watch this on TV and think it's good and connect with it or whatever. But as far as like real life, no, of course, space lizards don't control the globe. But, you know, who's the scriptwriter?
Yeah.
And what kind of quantum fuckery do they have going on? I'm inquisitive. I want to know all of the little tiny details, but the main thing that I want to know is how best to communicate to as many people as possible and say, there's something outside of our realm of knowledge that's controlling everything. Like we're a part of some alien ant farm and we're the ants. It's very obvious that there's too much evidence proving that's the case to really refute or deny it. But that's so anti-narrative that the only way I could get that information out would be through forming my own media company or something. Someone that's,
what do you know?
A journalist and business company.
Yeah.
So
here we are.
It's the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 thing. And like I mentioned earlier, I mentioned it very briefly. That was when they opened up some kind of a dark portal to kind of usher all of this stuff in.
Something very dark, black magic ritual type thing.
And it's been with us this whole time. And I feel like right now you and I are kind of in the quantum realms, kind of breaking that illusion, dispelling that distortion, if you will, to kind of just bring clarity to it throughout the collective. So thank you so much for doing this and being here with me. And
it's an honor. Thank you for having me.
It's really an honor to have you here. I've got this whole article here. I saved it all in my Evernote. The tree lore of the ash tree and the oak tree and this and that, and the laurel tree. The title of The Order of Bards and Druids. And it's just this very deep magic that you got going on. And it reminds me of just what that tree said to me that day. However weird it sound to anybody.
It doesn't sound weird to me at all.
I know, but to anybody else listening.
I know, to the normies.
The tree was just basically saying, and the thing about this particular tree, I called it two trees because it was a tree that grew into two. And it was saying, I was sitting there noticing, like, wow, there's this tree and it's grown into two trees. And it's the last tree here in the yard because we cut down the rest so we could plant a house. And then there's the forest out here. And it's only a little double tree here. And it's just like, yeah, and as a seed, I said, I'm going to grow into two trees because they cut down too many. I got to do my job. Hold my job up. And that was 50 years before you were born. So think about that level of intelligence before you give too much of your mental psychic power away to these forces that you think you're at war with. One line, you are at war with them, but they're not at war with you. They lack the capacity to really go to war against this. Like, how did that tree wind up being there? It's just really magical. It goes deep into this organic technology that I can't really describe in words. And I look out at the world and I see all of our machines and stuff, and we're trying to mimic that in every way possible. It's really surreal to be here at this time and place and just be consciously aware of what's going on, because I could easily be binging something on Netflix right now or playing a video game. But it's like spirit was like, okay, it's time to start. You tried you had to get the foundation for it. And now you form a legal entity, the LLC, this and that, and you're ready to go. And also reach out to these people. Oh, okay. She was having downloads and this and that, and ready to go too. So it's very interesting where this conversation led.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question, Ethan? We're talking about all this stuff with like time and everything like that. And what are your thoughts on if, let's say, you and I stumble across a technology that allows one to make alterations to timelines, right? Like where you could actually go back and make adjustments or changes. Do you feel like that could be potentially a way out of this for us? Like if we can figure out the inflection point, so to speak, of like when this parasitic invader force came in and just maybe somehow prevent it from happening. But the problem is when I think about that, I'm like, imagine the ripples. Like if we prevented that from happening, then we'd essentially prevent everything that's ever happened from happening. And not in a bad way, but
I think that we could tap into that technology and use it as a way to find the point in the timeline where we could tip the scales and realign the timeline to get it back on course. Like I was mentioning with you cut your hand and it heals itself. It reknits itself back together. So we could use such a technology and tap into it to find those trigger points would be the term. Yeah. To maybe record an interview like this and synchronistically say the right things to the right people who stumble across the thing, and then that ripples out. It's kind of like the intelligence of that tree planting itself there, growing into two trees, and like, hey, we got this.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, we're gonna knock over this domino piece here, and then down the timeline here, the full picture will get painted by the ripple effect. But you would use that technology, I think, to find that conjunction point, where and when to take action in whatever way needs to be taken. Does that make sense? I don't think
that makes perfect sense.
That causes you to not have to go back in the past and alter anything. You're going to alter the future by studying the past up until.
Yes, you're right. Because then otherwise, that like the problem with that route is you would change you would violate so many people's free will, right? Like, and to me, that's not right. It's a violation of a lot of universal and spiritual laws, and I wouldn't want to go that path. But you're right. If we could find a place in the timeline where it would just tip the scales just enough, where the ripples would be minimized to the absolute smallest degree, where like things would probably still be kind of the same to most people, like maybe a building name is a different name, like, but mild alterations and ripples, like nothing cray. But yeah, I love that. And we just got to figure it out. I don't know. We got our work cut out for us. That's for sure.
We really do. But I think that we came in fully equipped to handle it all. What else do I have here? I think that's our sacred duty, really, to do that. I've got one other thing that I just want to get your feedback on due to your posts and stuff, and then we'll wrap this up. But early on when I started in your post, a friend said, I really need to follow you, this and that. And I noticed your post and you were talking about the Library of Alexandria and this woman, ancient history, Hypatia.
Hypatia.
Yeah. I'm gonna just open up that for you. Tell me more about that and why I wrote it down on my notes here.
So I don't know why I have such a strong resonation of like.
I don't know why I resonate with it either. The thing I tagged you in the other day, I was like, oh, okay. So here's that. As above, so below. Here's the outer world, and then here's the inner world. And I have to tag Ashley in this, and then we'll go into that later. But
I just wanted to bring up all of that with you and have you talk about the Library of Alexandria as it relates with all of this and that.
So it's a good friend of mine who's very spiritual and very into this stuff as well. And he knows me obviously like inside and out. And he's like, have you ever heard of Hypatia? I'm like, hi, what? Like, sounds like some kind of like, I never heard this word before. And he starts telling me about her and what we know about her, which is very limited because they went to great efforts back then. So she was died. Oh my God, what was the year she was murdered? Even that history is like shaky. They don't even have an exact date of her murder, but it was roughly around 350, 400 AD, roughly in Alexandria. And she was a philosopher, a great teacher. And I guess she was so charismatic that men, well, they say men, because at this time, obviously mostly men from all over the world came to hear her speak in the like agora, where like all the philosophers, like this is like around the time of like Plato and Socrates, like roughly, just kind of imagine that era. And all the great philosophers philosophizing.
What did you say this was? Like what time?
Roughly around 300 AD was when she was around.
Somewhere within like 300 years of that whole Jesus story.
Roughly.
I just want to put that out there because like my mind's like, maybe the Jesus story is about, they mess with stories and this and that.
100%.
I have this idea in my head of this like female Jesus. Anyways, continue.
Right?
Yeah, I just wanted to
you and me both. You and me both, man. But supposedly there was something about her that was so threatening to the global establishment that like the patriarchy back then and the church, the politicians, like so you had all these different institutions all agree on one thing, that they needed to get rid of Hypatia. Like they were like, this bitch gotta go.
This is one person. This one person.
One person. They had to not only get rid of her, but they did everything they could to. And the saddest thing was, I guess she was. Oh, I have goosebumps. I'm just covered in goosebumps right now. So she was incredibly intelligent, and she was a really great, obviously not just a philosopher and teacher, but a mathematician and astronomer. Like she was mathematically inclined, which for a woman back then was not very common. And even her being a teacher in the Agora was like a lot of men didn't like it because women weren't supposed to be teachers back then, but they were like, it's fucking Hypatia, man. Like, what are we gonna do? She's better than all of us. Like she teaches us. Like, she was like, she was this great, amazing teacher. But obviously, so many men in like you have, and a lot of men in the church and in the government were like in love with her. Like not only just in love, but like just respected her and would do anything to like listen to her talk or whatever. But you had this divide. I know, right? You had this divide where it was like half the men in power were like admired her and thought she was the best, and the other half were like extremely threatened by her because they saw how influential she was and how much she kind of controlled all levels of like, but she was just very influential in all forms of power. And so they wanted to get rid of her. And so what they started to do is it was kind of during the round, like kind of the Inquisition type tactics where they were trying to force everyone to convert to Christianity. But Hypatia was just, who is this Jesus person they keep talking about? There's no internet back then. So she was like, I'm not going to convert to something that I don't know. Like, she was like she was very much a truth seeker and a seeker of knowledge. Like she was quoted as saying something about like religion, teaching religion is like, oh, I don't want to misquote it, so I'm not going to do it. But she had her stuff to say about religious dogma and doctrine that she was not a fan of. So all these men that admired and loved her were like, please just publicly convert to Christianity. Otherwise they're going to kill you. Like, please, just please. Like they didn't want her to die. And she was just like, they can come and get me, or like whatever she said, we don't really know. But her murder was so horrific that she was immortalized from it. So it ended up backfiring on them because whatever they ended up doing to her, they ended up, I guess she was on her way home after like teaching a thing in one of her halls, and she was in her little chariot, and all these like this Christian mob was hired basically to take her out, and they skinned her alive with seashells and tore her limb by limb and threw her limbs into the street. And the people, I guess, I'm just covering goosebumps, the people were mourning and screaming because like Hypatia was like this figure of hope, this figure of love and light, and was just such this wise being that everyone looked up to. And they call that the beginning of the fall. In many cultures, they actually call the death of Hypatia this shift of humans where we went after that. It suddenly went from women starting to kind of get their footing back again to suddenly being like, okay, we need to cover up women from head to toe. They can't talk. They can't read. They can't do shit because we can't have another Hypatia coming out here. Like, we can't ever let this happen again. And then we see what happened with religion, history, and I don't need to talk about women's history and whatever. but we just see that suppression like loud and clear. And I don't know what, but my intuition and gut tells me more than anything that these secret societies, the origin of many of them was like pure, like even like the Illuminati, like you have like Leonardo da Vinci was part of the Illuminati, right? Like it started off as like this group of philosophers that had to go underground around the time of Hypatia's murder and form their own secret societies because they still wanted to talk about all this stuff, but they couldn't because like organized religion was coming in and completely lighting out this whole philosophizing that was done. That it was essentially considered heresy and blasphemy, and they weren't allowed to talk about this. So started forming these secret societies and everything. And I have this strong feeling that Hypatia was not just like a philosopher and a scholar, but I feel like she was like a leader of some kind of mystery school, like the leader of like some kind of alchemist, where she was not just teaching like normal, like reading from a book. I feel like she was teaching about how to manipulate energy fields, how to like communicate telepathically. Like she was talking about stuff that was so taboo back then that they were just, because why else would they be that terrified of one woman?
I was just going to say that. Why else would they? It's not just it's obviously not just the stuff she was saying at the lecture hall. There was obviously she had more. But why was Voldemort going after Harry Potter? Just because of vendetta, or because he had more power than he had the power to? So
yeah, I just her story really spoke to me and inspired me, and
I learned about this story through you, by the way, in your post. So
I had never heard of her either. Well, she's not a common character, and even the movie, like I don't know, have you watched The Agora?
No.
I recommend. So that's the only. It stars Rachel Weisz. Keep in mind, of course, this is going to be a Hollywood, very sanitized version of what happened to her, but nonetheless, it's a movie about her. The only kind of public information about her, and then we don't really know much because they destroyed every book and everything she ever wrote. And I guess she had tons of books, but she was like this huge protector of the libraries of Alexandria as well. Like it was like her, like don't fuck around with Hypatia's scrolls.
I guess we got chills in the context of what we're talking about, the earth and the library of life with humans. We're the librarians, and now this.
Yeah, I know. Is there anything else you wanted to go into, or do you want to call it a night soon?
Yeah, we can call it a night there. I really wanted to make sure that I got you to speak on that at the end here.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Because let's see, what else do I have written here? Life is the game, but justice is her name.
My triggers, like you know what words to say.
And so I said that not only to trigger that with you, but also with whoever finds this video, because it's going to trigger them in the same way. Thank you so much for doing this. I'm sure that we'll be in contact as we move forward.
Can I talk about that for a moment, what you just said?
Please do.
Yeah, so sorry about justice and stuff. Like, I don't know what my purpose here is fully yet. I'm still trying to figure all that out. But all I know is it has to do with preserving life and protecting life at all costs and justice. Like something about justice needs to be restored, and not like police go in prison type justice, but where wrongs are righted, and things just are actually back to a form of justice where beings that can't speak for themselves are protected, as opposed to being abused and vandalized. Like look at our world. We talk about nature and everything right now. Look at the beings that are the most victimized. It's the children, it's the trees, it's the water, it's the beings that I feel like in a world of justice, it's the exact opposite. Those are the most protected, the most valued, the most sacred beings. If justice existed here, that's how it would be. And somehow they flipped the script on us. And I'm sure that's how it was when we were first invaded. I'm sure that's exactly how it was. They're like, we're going to do the opposite. Let's take all those sacred high things. Imagine the movie Avatar, that tree. Remember that holy tree? I get those analogies. Every time I watch that movie, I was like, I feel like that's exactly what happened here, is it was like that on this planet in some way. And they saw how sacred nature was and powerful. And they just chopped it all down because there was something about it. And those giant trees, I don't know if you saw those theories that they think mountains, there are certain mountaintops right now that seismic, I don't know what they're called, but things that look under the ground, they're seeing these root systems.
Yeah.
And then the rings on these mountaintops now that are showing that they're not just mountains, these were trees at some point, trees that would have went up to the clouds. How they got cut down, what their purpose was, I don't know, but interesting little page turner to think about.
Yeah. So again,
it's justice.
Sacred duty.
Yeah, sacred duty.
Thank you so much for being here. And
My pleasure. Thank you for having
The
me.
English name Ash may have been derived from the Anglo-Saxon word asec, A-S-E-C, which is the name of a ritualistic spear. The name Nuit, N-U-I-N, or Nin, literally means letters in the Celtic languages. I saw the word Celtic there, so Celtic druid, this and that, trees and big giant root systems and reaching up to the clouds and all this and that. Thank you so much for being here. Have a great night.
You too. I can't wait to see this at some point and share the hell out of it. I'm so pumped.
Yeah,
Our 5 fans will love it.
if we really tap in, I think that
I hope so.
everything will get to where it needs to go, and it might be even 10 fans.
I know, right? How exciting would that be? We'll be famous. 10 fans. I think if we change one heart and raise one vibration, I feel very proud of us.
Exactly. For me, it's not so much seeking success so much as it is in being successful and reaching those who need it.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for being on, and have a great night.
Every unique
You as well.
cosmic set with
Okay,
different
bye.
physical laws. Plus, every species capable of computation probably has supercomputer run simulations. With a population trying to explain it with its own Dr. Gates and its own language. Dirty windshields hinder our comprehension while tracking down great attractors aiming for ascension. From here, the multiverses look like sheets of paper in a library of books near the speed of lasers. Xenostructures that are even greater, built from every fundamental thing in nature. At a hyper glance, you wouldn't even notice the beauty of the balance. Damn, they should have sent a poet. The Omni, the top of the hierarchy, where all modes are in play, even the probably. Cyclical birth, life, and death of a whole entire cosmos where your old life's a speck of probability swallowed by infinity, existing longer than all cosmological history. Swallowed by infinity, existing longer than all cosmological history.